Hi, I'm Pablo, and this is Sidless. And in this lesson, I'm picking up right where I left off with the elements. I figured I'd just stroll right into the next lesson. Um, with this one, we were focusing more on the elements in the previous video, and in this one, we're going to focus mainly on the qualities of those elements and what differentiates all those. So I'm just going to jump right into this one. All right. Okay. So there are three type of qualities that all four elements have, which is cardinals, fixed, and mutables. And this is pretty much how each one of these elements is expressed. It's what differentiates the different signs of the same element. So I had mentioned this in a previous video that all the cardinal signs are, as far as referencing to the seasons they're in, these are all the season starters. So they're the initiators, and the symbolism is they initiate energy. They have more of the get up and go energy more than any other signs. They're the starters. Fixed sign, which means like what it literally means to hold position, to stay still, be stable. These ones are the finishers. These are the ones that take what Cardinals started and then they finish it. These are the middle of all the seasons. This is the middle of summer, middle of winter, middle of spring. These are the ones where like the energy's already here. I'm gonna continue it throughout it. All right. And I'd also mention that as far as fixed signs go, they also take these energies to their most extremes. All right. Scorpio is literally known as a sign of extremes. All right. And as if you get to know the signs, you realize that yeah, all these are pretty extreme in their own ways. Um, and then lastly, we have the mutable signs. These are the signs at the end of a season where it's starting to transition over to the next season. All right, this is end of fall, end of summer, end of spring, end of winter. Um, these are the adaptable ones, the changeable ones. Mutable is literally just the sign that these are the signs that are able to change easier than the rest. Where these are the most resistant to change, these are the ones most open to it. Okay? So if you take what we learned in the last lesson, when it's coming to fire and earth and air and water, what they all mean, you can look at it as okay, since fire signs are the initiators, the spark of inspiration, you know, and then take the cardinal sign on top of it, you can say that Aries is literally like the double initiator. Fires are the most, the starters of all the ideas and things in life. And cardinals are the starters of each element. Aries is the very first sign of the zodiac for a reason. All right. It's called the baby or the child of the zodiac. And that's because it's first, but because the energy exuberates where it's literally the most excited of all the signs. They get the pump the most out of everyone. If you know anyone, it's Aries. It's fire isn't always about being mad and screaming and all that kind of stuff. They tend to be the most childlike when it comes to expressing when they're excited for something. All of these signs, all the fire signs tend to be for, like the most surface level emotions, like anger, excitement, humor, uh, anything where it's just emotions that pop up quick. You don't got to think about them. They're just like knee jerk reactions. Aries is a double dose of that. All right. So cardinal energies, if you're related to all of these are probably the most, say the most ambitious, but the ones that are most likely to be ambitious in some way, shape, or form. Um, you know, when it comes to these signs, you pick up that Capricorns are known for being the workaholics of the zodiac because they're practical with their earth energy, because they're cardinal signs as well, meaning they're initiators. So when you take practicality with someone that takes initiative, you get a mixture of energy where they, comes out as a workaholic type of energy. They're the ones that are like, all right, this is what I have. These are my abilities. I want to do something with them. So, let me go to school. All right, let me learn this skills. All right, let me get a job. Let me get promoted that job. Let me move up the ladder of the corporate world. Like that's the type of energy, Capricorns give off because it's mixing this cardinal energy with the earth energy. Same with Libra. Between all the air signs, Libras are probably the ones that take charge the most because they all of these are the intellectual communicators, but as far as Libras go, they're the ones that are the best leaders of the air signs because they take initiative and they use their intellect in a way that's better for leading. If you have a boss that's a Libra, he's probably one of the more fair-minded bosses, meaning he'll consider your opinion, he'll consider what he's asking you to do, and he'll give you the most fair, even-keeled kind of answer. Like, hey, can I take the day off? Should take a day off. Last week. Yeah, well, sorry, bud, you already took one off. That kind of vibe. Like, they're not mean or picky or anything like that. It's more of like, is there a balance in this equation? They take initiative by using their intellect to sort all that stuff out for the group. All right. And if you go down to Cancer, you got to think about someone who's very emotional. All right, someone that uses their emotions for for some kind of good. They want to use their emotions with a purpose. All right. With Cancers, like I said, there's a lot of actors. There's actually a lot of famous CEOs. When I think top off my head, that's a Cancer is Elon Musk. He's a Cancer, and you might not be able to tell if he's really emotional on the outside. That might be due to other, his ascendant and other things in his chart that make him seem less emotional. But if you know anything about his life story, if you heard about things he went through as a child, he was bullied as a kid. He was bullied and he was, kind of treated kind of messed up. He was hurt. He was picked on. And those left something emotional on him. Remember, he's an introvert. So he took all his emotions and remembered all of them. But instead of just soaking in his emotions, he took initiative and did something about it. He made something out of himself. Remember, water nurtures earth. So if you look at what Elon has done with his life and his career, he's literally using all of his being to go out there and change the world, whether it be with his, SpaceX or Tesla or any of those different avenues he's got himself in. He's initiated it using his emotion, that weight he's carrying around with him to flow and accomplish these things. All right. It's all symbolism. All right. I'm going to keep repeating that. All right. Because, you got to look at it like that. And with cardinal energy, you got to think these are the initiators. All right. But on the flip side, it's not always just one type of thing. It's the duality within all these signs is there's a good thing and a bad thing. Being the initiators, being the leaders, one of their weak points is not always being able to finish things. That's their specialty. But with cardinals, a lot of times they don't always go through with things they start. Aries is known as very energetic, have that double dose of enthusiasm. They are probably the worst at finishing things. They get an idea, they want to start a project, they have all this energy in the very beginning, but then a fire goes out. If you're to make an analogy for the type of fire this is, it's like a bonfire. It's really big in the beginning and then it's out. All right. So, Capricorns can be really good, ambitious people. They're the mountain goat. They want to climb that mountain. They want to get to the highest point of elevation that they can attain. If they get discouraged along the way, then it's really hard to start them back up. If they can't get to the top of the mountain, they feel defeated. All right. But being that they're earth signs, they are the most stable out of all the cardinal signs. You can make the argument that they're the most likely to get those, ambitious goals. All ambitious, but because it's the earth sign, it's the most foundational, they're the most likely to attain it, even though they might take the longest because they're practical and whatnot. And since a lot of these signs, you even say that with Libras. I actually got a friend that's a Libra, and he described it to me really well. his kind of way of thinking. We were talking about astrology, and he had mentioned that, when he's at work, gets a lot of good ideas about a lot of things. Ideas are constantly going in and out of his head, all right? But sometimes he forgets to write those down, or they just like with thoughts like the wind. It's in your head one moment, it's out the next. All right, there was nothing to like ground it in reality, so he wasn't able to do anything with it. But being the position he was in, because he's a communicator, because he couldn't finish it himself, he would literally share that idea with people. And then if they felt like it was a good idea, he'd be like, all right, cool, good idea, take care of that, and just walk away. But some people would be like, oh, that's kind of cheap. But, some you got to look at it as it's not always their forte to finish things. If everything has its purpose, these are the ones that start everything. Sometimes it's not really their job to finish it. That's where these guys come in. It's these type of energies that kind of finish what these energies started. All right, and that brings us to the fixed signs. So if you look at all of these, if cardinal energy is initiating, you could also look at it as a kind of, between all of these, cardinal signs are kind of like the extroverted version of the qualities. They're the ones that they're initiators that trying to take the energy, go out in the world and do something with it, right? Or fixed signs, because they're the finishers, they're the more introverted of the qualities. You could say they hold their position, but it's because they take the element they're in and they focus more in on themselves. One thing you notice about all of these guys is they are they could be seen as the most selfish of all of these signs. All right, not that they're selfish by nature, but in comparison to the other two qualities, they have the most selfish tendencies. And what I mean by that is, let's go back to fire. With Aries is kind of like the, you know, initiator, the starter. Um, Leo's the finisher. You gotta look at it as, if they're starting and enthusiasm wears off, these signs come in and literally they're always on. If this is a bonfire, this is more of like an ember in a fire where like it might not burn as bright as this one, but it's not gonna go out anytime soon. All right, it's gonna be there for a while. All right, they stand still, they hold it. But with fire energy, that enthusiasm is kind of expressed outward. Leos are kind of known for being vain. They're the lion, they're the pretty animal. Um, they take that same kind of enthusiasm, but it's focused more in on their own persona, on their own ability, on their own excitement. They tend to be romantics, but it's only because you know, they have a love of the body. They have a love of, when I say love of body, I mean like physical things, like going around and accomplishing things. A lot of, like I said, a lot of Aries are in sports. With Leo, you can see there's a lot of more artistic people in the Leo category. There's singers, actors, politicians, people that go up front and kind of need to be the center of attention. So, with Leos especially, they're known for being the strong, hardy ones, but they take that same energy and they focus it in more on themselves. And I know that sounds like, oh, it's kind of fucked up. I know that kind of sounds like, oh, it's kind of messed up. They're like the selfish ones. But, you got to think if there's a reason and a purpose for initiators from the cardinal signs, there's a purpose for fixed signs too. Being fire, that's the inspirational ones. Leos do it in being the example for what other people should attain to. Lions are majestic. People, look up to lions, as something that's beautiful and something that you'd want to attain. All right, Leos, they're not selfish people all the time. They can be very generous. All right, fire signs tend to be very generous with who they burn. But with Leos especially, it's more of like an energy of, they are the example of inspiration. All right, let me be that energy. This Leo, like a Leo's like, let me be that energy for you to attain. All right, let me be the example let me set the example for what it is. Fire signs also, because they have that childlike kind of enthusiasm with them. If you think about it, Aries is known as like the baby of the zodiac. You go through the three signs, you get to Leo. Leo's kind of known as like the teenager of the zodiac. All right, they're, how teenagers are, and it's like to get a second dose of enthusiasm. As teenagers come into the world, it's equivalent to how they were as kids. They're starting to pick up on things they didn't when they were kids. Things are making more sense. They start expressing themselves differently than when they were childs. When you're a kid, everything's new, everything's exciting. That's why Aries is the most excited of all the signs. But Leo's a close second, because then you become teenagers and you start, doing things you couldn't as a kid, like, you get your license, you start dating, you're left alone and given responsibilities. It's like, that's another part of your life where like things get exciting, and with them, it's kind of like they have like a teenager vibe where they can be kind of immature at times, Leos are known for kind of, you poke them, they might cry. They could be kind of, I don't know, sensitive, but like I mentioned, these other signs with that's just Leo, that's just the fire sign. But if you take the fixed energy and apply it to these other elements, think about Taurus. We mentioned that earth signs are stable and they're foundational. They're the hardest to move, but they're also the hardest to stop once they get going. If Capricorn is the initiator earth sign and Taurus is the fixed earth sign, they can both be unstoppable when they get going, but Taurus probably has a harder time actually getting going. All right. That's why they get labeled with their stereotype of being the lazy ones. But because, like I said, they're also known for being the most materialistic. Fixed energy is taking that same kind of elemental energy and focusing more on yourself. So out of all of the earth signs, they tend to be the ones that, take that materialism to the extreme. Like Tauruses love luxury more than most signs. They're known for how, if it's a woman Taurus, they're the ones with all the Gucci bags and all the shoes, and if they're guys, they're probably the ones with all the shoes and the hats and cars and like material things they can get their hands on. All right. Oh, I only get my clothes from this website. Those kind of people. It's a very Taurus-like energy. It's taking that practical materialism, but focusing in more on themselves. But, once a Taurus gets going though, and they get started on something, you'd be hard pressed to get someone that's not going to accomplish that. Hard pressed to find someone that's less likely to accomplish it. All right. Because once they set their eyes on the prize, it's like you can't stop them. That's that fixed energy once they get going. Now move on to the next one. We go to air. Think about the air signs, the communicators. Aquarius, I kind of mentioned it before already. With air signs being the communicators, they kind of have a duality with the way they communicate, right? Where, Gemini is really quick and back and forth. Libras kind of take that same kind of duality, but kind of balance it out. Aquarius, because it's a fixed sign, it holds its place. It's no back and forth with Aquarius, all right? It takes an idea and it holds on to it, all right? Aquarius are known as kind of being some of the more stubborn. Actually, he's all stubborn, but Aquarius is really stubborn when it comes to their ideas, all right? You see a lot of, memes online that Aquarius kind of tell you facts or kind of tell you opinions as if they're facts. And it's because what all the air signs do is when they get these ideas in their heads, because it's a fixed kind of energy, they don't just take that idea and spit it out really quick like a Gemini, or they don't deliberate on it for a bit and then come up to a solution with like a Libra. Aquarius takes that energy, keeps it in their head and thinks about it, thinks about it, thinks about it, thinks about it, and comes to a point where it's a final conclusion where it doesn't need to be thought about anymore. I've already thought the hell out of it, right? So when you meet Aquarius people and they're probably going to have really strong opinions on a lot of things. And if you were someone that tried to maybe open them up to something different, they'd be probably one of the hardest ones to change their mind. Because in their head, I've already thought about this. I've already thought the hell out of this particular topic. I already have this fixed idea in my head of what it is. All right. So that's how you can kind of see with Aquarius energy how when you come across other Aquarius, why they're like that. But to be fair, Aquarius are also known for being kind of like the humanitarians of the zodiac, one of the most giving, because when you think about it, when you think about ideas to the most extreme extent, you think about not just yourself as a person, you think about people, in general. Their ideas are really big and long, and what they do with it is they tend to zoom out so much where they start considering everybody. So with that, they become humanitarians as a side effect of their intellect always taking them to that extreme, right? So, like, one example is like if someone's talking about good and evil, you know, Gemini would tell you good and evil's this. Libra is kind of like, well, good's good for this, but maybe evil's kind of necessary for that. Aquarius is just like, there is no such thing as good and evil, right? There's all just ideas and concepts made up by the human brain. In reality, all there is perception. That's kind of how like Aquarius would stand out. Aquarius is known for being the unique one, and it's because of the fact that they take this fixed energy and they mix it with their intellect, and they take these ideas to the extreme. They have very unique perspectives on things, which make them a unique sign. So last one, as far as fixed goes, we have water, and that's Scorpio. Like I mentioned earlier, Scorpio is known as a sign of extremes. It's if Cancer is the water sign that lets emotions flow back and forth, the difference with Scorpio is Scorpio takes that same emotion, but instead of letting it flow in and out, they hold on to it. All right, and they hold it in place. It's in a fixed emotion. What they do is they take it and they hold on to it. All right. Scorpio is also known as a sign that likes to have revenge. They're like the most vindictive of all the signs, stereotypically. And it comes from this place of they're an emotional sign, but they don't let their emotions flow. They hold on to them. All right. So if you've done a Scorpio bad, they're not going to forget, because water has memory, and they'll hold on to that, and they will never forget what you did or what you said or whatever. But also because of that, their Scorpios are also known as the sign of transformation. All right. Scorpio is associated with Pluto and the eighth house, and all of those, what they have in common is death and transformation, but also sex. Uh, Scorpio energy is known as like the sexual sign, but that comes from, you know, there's the French word for orgasm is little death. There's a little death every time you do that. But if you stop and just kind of zoom out, think about the symbology behind it. The act of sex is really just the act of transformation. You're taking two energies and making something else with it. You're making a person, a baby, whatever. You know. So when someone dies, they transform into something else. The physical body deteriorates, their soul, whatever you believe in. It goes somewhere else or it goes nowhere, depending on your beliefs. But it transforms into something else. That's what this is. It's the act of taking an emotion and holding on to it for so long, and it transforms into something else. The bad side of Scorpio is, yeah, they can be vindictive. Yeah, they can be vengeful. But on the flip side is sometimes they can take that same emotion, hold on to it for so long that they're able to power themselves into transforming past that emotion. All right. The good part of Scorpio is they can take that and use that emotion to power themselves. They're known as being a very powerful sign. All right. It's up for debate, which is the most powerful, and in my opinion, it's not really important. But it's more of that they're associated with power because it takes a very powerful will to hold on to something for so long that it transforms into something else. So with Scorpios, that's kind of their thing. All the fixed signs, like I said, they've taken their elemental energy and forced it more towards themselves. All right. And they're steady, they don't let go. All right. And that brings us to the last quality, which is mutable. So with these signs, if these are initiators and these are finishers that can be more on the selfish side, These are the most selfless signs. You know, one common theme between all of them is they're probably the most likely to want to help people. Maybe not in all the same way, you know, that's going to change by their sign, but they are the most willing to help. All right. They take that same energy where this is focused on accomplishing a task. This is focused on themselves and maybe a little bit of self gratification. This is focused on just going for whatever is the easiest. All right. With mutable signs, one of their specialties is spontaneousness. So they express their energies best when it's in a spontaneous manner. And what I mean by that is where these guys tend to have their eye on the prize and they set goals to go accomplish it. Uh, Same thing with these guys. These probably are the, if I go into negative aspects first, these are the most wishy washy of the signs. The ones that are least likely to set goals, least likely to write things down, least likely to have structure to their life, you know, with the exception of Virgo. Um, you gotta look at how a changeable energy manifests with these different elements. While there's fire signs, we spoke how Aries is like the child, Leo's the teenager. You gotta look at as you go through the zodiac, the energy matures. All right, and not like that. Like Sagittarius is better than Aries. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, you know, wine matures. You know, some people might like the wine it's fresher, and other people be like, oh, it tastes better when you leave it in there longer. That's kind of how this is. I made an analogy. This is a bonfire. This is more of like an ember. If you think about this, this is more of like a blue fire, like a cool fire. You know, it's probably the least fiery of these signs, but they're still fiery. It's just they're changeable. Thing about like, you know, these are like explosions. This is more of just like a flame. You know, it's a little flame. You know, just doing its thing. Um, Thing about inspiring people, they do it spontaneously, which means, you know, if you ever met a Sagittarius, they tend to be very humorous. You know, they like with Gemini, these two kind of get off on being funny. They get off on expressing themselves in a funny way, and they do it on the spot. You know, they just it's quick. You know, it's funny. You know, and their best ways of helping people is helping them understand. All right, I'm gonna reference both of these just because you know I've researched these both a lot. Um, Gemini and Sagittarius. Gemini is known for being the learner of the zodiac. They're the ones that just want to learn everything. Just tell them they communicate it. That's their thing. Well, since Sagittarius is more of the inspirational aspect of uh, extroverted energy, you can think of them more as like the teacher of the zodiac. They're associated with Jupiter and philosophy. So when it comes to Sagittarius, they're similar to Gemini in the fact that they're very knowledgeable, but Sagittarius expresses their fire energy best when it's sharing their whether it be their ideals or their ideas, um, or their you know their life experiences with people around them with the intent of teaching them something with it. All right. And I know a lot of Sagittariuses that do this, and a lot of them don't even realize they're doing it. But they tend to talk about things or bring up stuff that has a like kind of like a hidden theme or lesson behind it that they're trying to convey through that story. And they do it spontaneously. You know, these guys, you know, if I'm being honest, when it comes to this YouTube stuff for here I'm doing, I tried writing it down because I'm a Sagittarius. I tried having a script and I realized it's a lot better when I just wing it. Is what I'm doing right now. It's just, you know, I'm knowledgeable on the subject and it's for me, it's easier to just let it flow naturally. All right. Geminis are similar where it's better when they just let this info flow naturally. All right. If we look at the feminine signs, which is earth and water, Virgo, I feel like it's a very misunderstood sign. And one of the negative things they say about it is they're very analytical and overcritical, and they're all about the details, right? Because when it's practicality, They're not so much, their eyes aren't really set on a far prize. It's more of what's in front of them right there. And because it's mutable and it's less about a far off goal, it's more about wherever they're most useful. Virgos are known for being like the helpers. You know, they're the helpers of the zodiac because they take that practical nature of themselves and then they apply it to wherever they're at in that moment. What can I do with what I got right here? All right. If you look at the Virgo zodiac, it's a woman holding the wheat, right? Well, Virgo is the end of fall, or it's the end of summer, which means it's the end of harvest, which means as they're harvesting it, they're going through the wheat and they're just like, all right, this is good wheat, this is bad wheat, this is good, this is bad. It's about what is practical and what is not. What can I use now? What can I not use? Virgos, that's what they specialize in. That's why they kind of get the label of overanalyzing things because they look at things and be like, that's useful, this isn't, that's useful, this isn't. We can use this, we can't use that. That's where the changeable energy comes in. But because it's a practical energy, because of the earth, that's how the energy mixes. I already kind of spoke on Gemini. Gemini is being a communicator. They're able to take these ideas and spontaneously express them. There's a lot of freestyle rappers that are Geminis, all right? They're able to do it on the spot without thinking. That's just a specialty of them. They're able to do it. It's just easier for them, all right? And sometimes they don't always think it through, like a Libra or like an Aquarius. It's more of like the first thought, all right? They're able to pick up on things quick compared to the other two. All right. Well, Aquarius, because it's fixed, it takes that thought and it doesn't really share it till they've really thought about it. Gemini just come right out the mouth. All right. They also can put their foot in the mouth a lot, but maybe not as much as Sagittarius. But it's the same kind of energy. All right. It's mutable. It's changeable. It's taking this element and making it moldable. It brings me to the last one, Pisces. All right. There's one thing that kind of makes Pisces kind of different than other water signs is they're all introverted. They're all introverted, right? Cancer can hide their emotions behind the shell. Scorpios can hold on to their emotion, not let you see it until they strike like a scorpion. Pisces, they're the fish, which seems kind of funny compared. It's the one without protection. All right. These fish don't have the same kind of protection that these guys have. So it's emotions, but it's changeable emotions. So if you think about it, they go through life kind of just going with the flow. All right. Which is, what they all do, but Pisces especially is they don't overthink things. They're not very extroverted. A lot of times they're soft spoken. But one thing we all agree on is they literally just let the water carry them where they go. Pisces are like the chameleons of the zodiac where they can literally go into any social setting and just fit in right away. Right? They like water, they can mold and shape to whatever container they need to go in. All right. So while they might not be the most extroverted and they might not be, most practical, probably the least practical to be honest with you. Pisces are they are the softest of all the elements. Let's just put it that way. And they have their purpose and they have their duty. They are the ones that pretty much can, unbeknownst to a lot of people, they can end up being punching bags for a lot of people. Not because they're pushovers, but because they don't have that energy of pushback in them. They just let what happens to them. But when a Pisces person does get mad, just, it didn't come out of nowhere, right? it was something that built up over time. But that can be said with any sign. But Pisces is just the hardest to tell with them because of their mutable nature. They kind of just go with what's happening, It's the spontaneousness of emotion, Whatever they're feeling in a moment, that's what they go with, right? So that's kind of like a basic overview of the different qualities. We can go deeper into it, but what I want to do next, in the very next lessons, I'm going to start going through each sign individually. All right. And I'm going to do my best to really get deep into those signs. I'll probably do them in pairs or groups. Um, maybe like the first three signs, the next video will be the next three signs. But then we'll take all the lessons we learned here in the last couple of videos, with the dualities and the elements and now the qualities, and we'll apply all that we learned to describe those signs more in depth. And then we'll be looking specifically into the symbology behind those specific elements. Like with Aries, it's the ram. We're going to, why is it called the ram? Why did they say it was like a ram? How does that apply to Aries? And Pisces, same thing. Fish. Why did they use fish to describe them? We'll be going into that in the next few lessons, all right? But these first few were just to give you a groundwork of an idea of how to interpret these signs without the symbology of like the animals, all right? Just strictly elements, qualities, and dualities to paint you a picture of, all right, these are the type of energies I'm working with. All right, let's use the zodiac now to get even more in depth with that sign specifically. So that being said, I'm gonna end this video here. I hope you learned something. And I'm gonna try to put out another video soonish. You'll be going on vacation pretty soon, so might have to wait a little bit longer, but who am I kidding? By the time I made this video, there's not that many views on my channel yet. It's still early, so I'm just talking like I have a big audience, but I don't. But it's fine, all right? Eventually in the future, if you're watching this and it's like 2 years in the future, then when I recorded this, I didn't have a big audience. But by the time you're watching it, hopefully I do. But regardless, either way, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.